So let's have a look at the more uncut footage without developers' commentary. If you have not seen it, we have just watched the Alpha Strike stream with the developers where they're going in depth in a lot of the mechanics, and I want to take a look at some of the mechanics they have presented. If you want to watch the previous one, it's on my channel as a live stream and as a video. And this one is, well, the next video. So, I want to jump a little bit ahead. This is the tutorial stuff, which looks cool. Keep in mind that there are apparently some graphical issues in this build. So if you were seeing something weird with the graphics, this is just a bug. They will fix that. So this is the beginning of the campaign. Unfortunately, yeah, you cannot play any of the others. But it is nice that they tried. Like that. So this is where you're choosing basically your chapter. And you can completely create one from scratch. Or you can already choose one of the available ones. Right? Like if you want to play the Ultramarines, then go for it. But I want to take a look at the... Oh yeah, also one of the things before we are jumping into the campaign, before I forget about that. So this is the create your faction stuff with colors, emblems, and all that. Now, this is not much. This is a slice of it. And there will be so much more in the full game. The reason why it is not in the Gamescom build is pretty simple. Because people are only allowed to play for, what was it, 20 minutes? Because, you know, there's a line other people want to play, yada, 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 yada. So, and they realize the moment they are putting everything into the build, people just sometimes sit here for like 20 to 40 minutes. And most of the people were just creating their Space Marine chapter instead of playing the build. And they were like, you know what? Maybe we should shrink it down. And yeah, I understand. But again, tons of choices here already, but there will be so much more. I hope there is a little bit more details and what you can do with the different layers and colors. Right now, it's again very minimalistic, but I wanna see more. So let's jump into the campaign map here, and that is right here. So what we do know is finally, I can pause here for a second. Yay! Finally, we know what all this means in the top left corner. So the left one is basically money. It's just being called something completely different all the time. But that is money. And as it seems, the orcs are producing teeth as their money resource, kind of as I expected. And you're just generating that. And then you have also your influence. That's the second number you see on the left side, right? That's influence. And you can use the influence to go to one of the governors on the planet, like War Pontiff, Marcus, the what is it, 26th? There we go. And you can just say, okay, click on edicts. I wonder if they are actually showing that. This is the building menu. Let me see if they are showing the edict system here. No, unfortunately not here. But basically you can go to the edicts and then say, make me more money. Raise some troops and defend your freaking planet, goddammit, and so on and so forth, right? You can tell them what to do, but that will cost you influence. Depending on how much they like you, you will also generate influence with the governor of this planet. And yes, the governors will look different. They will have different traits. And depending on the traits, they will like what you do or don't like what you do. What does that mean? Well, let's say you have a governor who is very much focused on industrial production. And you are destroying now a lot, and I mean a lot of their stuff, which is very important for production, then they would go, bro, what the hell? You were supposed to help me here and not destroy me. So they will start to hate you, you will lose influence, yada, 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 yada. Right, another resource, we will see if they are showcasing that, but let's have a look first at the building. So again, Space Marines, I don't really know for building, right? They're not building empires. That's just not what Space Marines do. But what you will be able to do is you have like different capitals and districts, and then you can choose to actually improve them. Now, you are not building cities, right? They are all just there from the beginning. And depending on what type of city it is, or what type of outpost, or whatever, right? It doesn't have to be a city. You will have unique buildings and unique things to do, which you can only do there. So let's say you need some orbital cannons. You can only build that in your main city, but you would not be able to build that in a smaller farm city or something like that. And then we have like the upgrades. This is where you can hire your infantry, right? We have already seen that. Oh yeah, let's talk about the campaign system. So it seems like they have done some bigger changes to how you will play a campaign. So when you are playing a big campaign, which is the War for Armageddon, which is like the main thing, or at least it's the main thing at the beginning of the game. They will probably add more over time, as it sounds. And you are starting out in a system with multiple planets, and you are trying to conquer it all or to achieve certain missions. So you have certain goals which will change, and you have to achieve them. When you have done that, you're done with the campaign, so to speak, and then you are moving on to the next one. And you can decide in which system you want to go. Which kind of interesting how they are doing. And then in the end, you will reach Armageddon and hopefully do the big fight for Armageddon. Personally don't know how I feel about that. I think I kind of hope that Immortal Empires showed them that people just love to have a gigantic map and just like to conquer. I know it's a lot of like brainless stuff, right? It's just like, oh, you're conquering the world. Oh, how exciting. But a lot of people like to do that. They have tried to do a campaign system, in particular in Total War, Warhammer 3, with the Chaos campaign. Kind of tried that, or the Realm of Chaos. And it never really fully worked out. Like, people were okay with it, but they did not necessarily like it that much. So I'm really curious how people will accept the campaign in the campaign system. Let's see if they're actually showing a little bit more here. Okay, there's the mission objective they have to conquer. Yeah, they're showing again what they can build here. Oh yeah, Space Marines and what they will do. Well, as I said, Space Marines are not really the builders. They're not really trying to build an empire. And I find that so interesting. So this is something I talked about in my video I did a week ago. Like, how much will the different races of factions be actually different? Right? Like Space Marines, they don't really build. And more importantly, they don't necessarily build empires. What was that of the Ultramarines? But that's beyond the point. Like, they are very mobile. And that's what they are trying to do here in this game, right? They try to depict Space Marines who are very mobile. So you don't really have like a main capital, main planet. You do have a fleet, right? Your main fleet. And that's what you use to fly around. You upgrade it, you build on it. Well, upgrade it, build on it, but upgrade it. And you are sending that fleet around. And then on the planet, you will be able to do some upgrades again to the already available cities. I mean, do I like that system? I am very curious to see what the other factions are offering. It's really tough to compare that when you don't really know how the other factions are handling this whole situation. Now, I think it does make sense for the Space Marines. That's also what you were seeing in the top left corner, right? This particular area here is for renown and suspicion. So basically, what it means is if your suspicion is higher than your renown, you are getting into trouble, right? The Inquisition is basically coming knocking, and it's like, hey, what are you doing exactly here? Like, that's a lot of armies you are amassing, and you are building like your own little empire inside the Imperium. Like, you are definitely doing things here we don't like too much. They didn't go into detail on what that exactly means, but I hope the repercussions will be severe. I really do. I hope it's not just a slap on the wrist, like, oh, you were super suspicious. You were basically this close to heresy. Um, but you know what? You were just getting 100 space bucks less next round. I don't think that's very interesting. So I'm really curious how the system will look like in a long campaign. But that sounds awesome. I like that because it's very thematic for the Space Marines, right? Let's have a look at. Oh yeah, why haven't I mentioned that? Why haven't I talked about this awesome feature they are now doing? So we are going back to the old Total War games. And I mean Shogun, Medieval 1. If you have never played those games, which I totally understand, don't. They are slightly outdated here. The old campaign map was basically 2D chess on a big world map. So, what that meant was every turn, you could move your armies, your spies, your diplomats, and so on and so forth, your units. You could move them one or two spaces on the map. So you had to be, excuse me, you had to be very careful in where you sent your units, but it also was very clear in where your units will end up. And more importantly, you know what the enemy will do because they had the same limitations as you and they didn't have this 3D movement. And I know that they implemented this 3D movement where you had like a lot of action points just to make it feel more like other 4X games and make it also feel a little bit more tactical, right? They wanted to add more depth to the movement on the campaign map. But I will be honest, it never felt like it did. And it actually added more confusion. Like, just play any of the Total War games. Play one of the Total War Warhammer games. And you will have those moments where you are literally pixel, a pixel away from the coordinates, from an enemy army, from a city you wanted to siege, and it was driving you crazy. The same goes with the enemy, where you thought, and not just thought, you checked on it by clicking on the enemy army, and you were like, yeah, yeah, I'm far away. They're not getting me. And then they're getting you. And it's like, what is happening here? How did they got this army? They were not on range. And it led to a lot of confusion. Not anymore. Now you have 2 action points, right? And that means you can just move 2 regions. Which 2 regions that are? Well, it's up to you. And I think that's the right way. I think that's the good thing. Oh, and also speaking about suspicion, mentioned that earlier. Somebody is now a little bit suspicious, huh? But yeah, I also like that you can... Let me see. This will be the battle, right? And then that's that. Yeah, okay. I wanted to go a little bit back on the campaign map because I wanted to show something. Let me show you that at the... Yes. Let me show you that at the beginning. So this is a pretty good moment for that. You can see this with a question mark. Those are interactables. This is a Land Rider in particular, and you can actually fix the Land Rider, and then the Raider, what the hell? You can fix the Land Raider, and then you can actually add the Land Raider to your army. But they want to do this not just for units. They want to have a lot of interactables you can just go to, and then something will happen. You will have to make decisions what that something is and how it will play out, and it might actually give you some benefits or not, but it depends, huh? And I think that's cool. That really vitalize the strategy map, because the strategy map has been, I think especially in the Warhammer games, it's basically devolved to just a army movement map where you will choose your next battle. And I want it to be more. And I think this is like the right way to do it. And I hope there will be a lot of events. Like, yes, no, do I want this to be like Age of Wonders or something like that? No, of course not. But I want it to be interesting. Quality over quantity in the end, right? But that's such a cool addition. But yeah, this was basically what they have showed us when it comes to the campaign map. Looked really good. And I liked all of that. They also showed us a little bit more in the battles, but the battles are very much from what we have seen. Space Marines seem to be very, very powerful. It will be very tough for people to understand how, like, their orc army of 2,000 orcs just lost against 200 Space Marines. But that's basically what's happening. And I'm really curious to see how the auto battles will function later on. We've only seen a few auto battles, but they have all been more or less scripted, right? The game is telling you, like, yeah, there's an auto battle. And auto battles are really something I fear a bit. Because in the other Total War games, and especially Total Warhammer, auto battles could be such a bullshit. And I mean, it goes for both ways, where you kind of think, oh, wow, how did I win this? Okay, I take it. And then there are moments where you are losing like half your army and you are like, oh, what happened here? And then you were doing the battle just yourself and you didn't even lose a single unit. It's like, oh, that's bizarre. So again, I hope they are also showing us a little bit more about that in the future. They did very, very briefly talk about online features, but it was more like they're there. We will talk about them when the time comes. Right. So that's at least something. But yeah, I think I will make a shorter video down the road to do like a quick like recap about what they talked about and the release date and all that. But I wanted to take a little bit of a closer look to some of the features they have just showcased. But with that said, we're at the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, if you enjoyed it, please don't forget to hit the like button or whatever the platform this is on is supporting. And the same goes, of course, with if you enjoy this, don't forget to subscribe and all that. Yes. Now, with that said, stay safe. I'll see you next time.